This is example B on page 221, and basically what they do is they give you one function, and then they tell you whether the other function is positive or negative. When it says less than 0, like this one, that means it's negative. And then they ask you to find the other 5 trig functions. So I'm going to go through how to do this with you, but I'm only going to try these part B. The first thing we want to do is kind of get a handle on what this really means. So the first thing that I look at is the fact that this is a secant, and a secant is a cosine reciprocal. Now, cosine is x over y. I'm sorry, x over r. And because this is a secant, that makes our radius 6, and that makes our x value 5. So again, what you do is you take a look at its reciprocal function, and then you flip it. So this will be the r, and this will be the x. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this x and r to find our y value, and then that will help us find all 6 trig functions. Okay, so step 1, label x, y, and r from your function. And that's what we did. We used the fact that this was the reciprocal of cosine, and then we flipped it so that we could figure out what was. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use x squared plus y squared equals r squared to solve for the missing one. Okay, so what you have x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and plug them in. So x is 5. We don't have a y, and r is 6. So we have 25 plus y squared equals 36. And we're going to solve for y. So I'm just going through these motions of solving for y. And it looks like y is the square root of 11. Okay, so we're not changing this to a decimal. We're going to keep it like that. Okay, so we found the missing side, which was y. Now we can use our 6 trig ratio values to plug in and do the rationalizing as necessary. Things for you to know. Let's do this. Write our trig ratios down for each function and rationalize if necessary. So we have sine theta, which is y over r. So that's going to give us square root of 11 over 6. Cosine theta is x over r, and that's going to give us 5 over 6. Tangent is y over x, and that's going to give us square root of 11 over 5. All right, so those are our first 3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the reciprocals of these to get our other 3 functions. Okay, so I'll probably write them over here since I have a little bit more space. Pull this down a little bit. So the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. Remember, sine sandwich. And we're going to reciprocal that. That gives us 6 over square root of 11. And then we're going to rationalize it. So multiply top and bottom by radical 11. And you get 6 radical 11 over 11. The next one is secant. And we already know that. They gave us they gave us secant, which was 6 over 5, so that's easy. And then cotangent, and cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So we would do 5 over square root of 11 and then rationalize that, and that gives us 5 radical 11 over 11. Now, so what we did was we labeled x, y, and r from our function because of our reciprocal function. So that's how we started. Then we solved for we solved for y because we knew x and r. We did not know y, so we solved for y. And then we wrote our trig ratios out and then took their reciprocals. The last step is to check for our sign values. Okay, check for sign values. So step 4, I'm going to do in red, check for positive or negative based on the quadrant. Now here's what we need to know. We need to go back and reread the question. Now it tells us here, this part, this says that sine theta is less than 0, so that means sine is negative. The secant that they give us is positive, which means cosine is positive. So in our checking of which quadrant this literally lives in, cosine is positive in these two. That's where cosine is positive. And sine is negative in this one. So we're looking at a quadrant 4 angle. Again, you know this because cosine is positive in 1 and 4, and sine is negative in 4. This is where sine is negative. Sine's positive in 1, but sine is negative in 4. So all we have to do now is make our cosine and our secant positive, cosine and secant positive, and all the rest of them become negative. Negative that one, negative that one, negative that one, negative that one. All the rest of these are negative because it's a quadrant 4 angle.